Well, good afternoon, Aristo.
Good morning, Ron. It's 10:55. The first time we've actually hit four digits on the clock.
Yeah, 5-5.
It's
Uh,
5:55 where I am, though.
it's 5-5-5 where you are?
Yes.
Imagine that.
So,
So, anyway, we've already been talking about things for actually quite a little while. I'm going to let you take it away. You said something about goddess card readings with one of your friends, and
yeah,
so
I had a lot of things that I could discuss as usual. But your presentations this week have been pretty much covering a very broad spectrum from person deep and broad and very challenging. So how to put all those things together? That's probably not what I'm going to do here, but we'll see if that even happens. It might. The thing is, a friend of mine is online and she does readings. So, jokingly, I said, "Hey, give me a reading as to what would be a satisfactory topic for tomorrow. Something that would be useful, something that you would have appeal, something whatever." And well, these are goddess cards, so each card represents a goddess. It's not like the four of clubs and stuff like that. And they don't tell you something will happen in the future. They're giving you a present time state. The way the cards are thrown, basically, as she interprets them, is that there are three cards in a row. The middle card is the basic issue, and the right and left cards are basically balancers. And the way when somebody does a reading for me, I also do my own intuitive sense of it. So in my sense, the card on the right, was basically, if I was facing out of the table, it would be on the left, is the receptive nature, a kind of flowing nature, energetic. The other card is an active, more structured, more severe nature or defining nature. So basically, what happened was that the card on my right, the, the card representing fluidity and receptivity, the mild card, let's say. That was a Celtic goddess of water, and the card basically said illness, wellness. And the other card was a goddess of fire on the other end of the spectrum, the volcano goddess of Hawaii, and that to the person who made the deck was awakening. The middle card was the Egyptian goddess of sensuality or pleasure called Hathor. She was like a cow goddess. So you have these two things. You have water and the water challenges us in our receptivity to enter the cycle of illness wellness. It's not just wanting to jump off into wellness. It's a cycle. The Celtics, they said, had a dance to take you from illness to wellness. And these things cycle back because even when you're in wellness, you're strong enough to confront things that can lead you to illness. Or you can confront illness without taking it on and having it eat you up. Doesn't mean you keep it at a distance, but it means you engage in it from a perspective of wellness. This is all the water element, the fluid element. You have to keep things cycling. On a psychological level, the advice here would be don't let duty take over what's good for you. Basically, don't let your ideals or your sense that you have to do something or that you have to be, succeed in something, supplant your humanity and the fact that you have to look out after yourself. You have to look for your own needs. You have to place yourself in the center of your experience and say, this is what hurts me, this is what doesn't. I'm going to go and heal now, not by confronting the negative, because if you confront the negative without a process of cycling and healing it, then it's just going to pound you into dust. That's why people avoid it. They don't know what to do with it when they confront it. Blind embracing of the negative is not healing. It's swallowing it whole and having it eat you up from the inside. It's not digesting it. It is an art, a skill, a matter of experience, and a matter of being natural and open to your own self to be able to digest negativity. The secret of this is selfishness, not the selfishness of the judgment, oh, you're selfish, or people going around screwing other people because they're selfish. No, they're not selfish. They're in denial. People hurt people because they are in denial. If they were truly selfish, they would not have a reason to hurt anybody. They would not want it because it rains on our parade when other people are hurting. Nobody likes a negative atmosphere. So true selfishness is based on pleasure. Pleasure is not just a physical thing. However, it includes physical pleasure. Pleasure is fulfilling. The thing that people call pleasure is also denial often in our society. It's trying to escape from something we don't want to face because we don't acknowledge the fact that we cannot digest it right now, but that we are also challenged to be able to digest it at some point when we are ready. We make a snap decision and say, no, either or, forget it. We don't understand that not being able to approach something once at a certain time does not mean you can never approach it. Does not mean it is out of your reach. Often when we have something on the horizon, we just sit there and stare at it, engage the distance, and prepare for the long walk of when we're going to go to it. Sometimes we would really like for the thing to come to us, but if that happened, we would be overwhelmed because we are too weak. So we get up and we take the journey and we become strengthened by the journey, and when we finally reach the destination, we are ready for what we get there. And it's not some big challenge necessarily. Even good things require us to be strong because they overwhelm us with intensity. All the what ifs, if you're insecure, if you're doubtful, a little kid cannot handle adult things, because it's not ready for them. So the process of growing up is often bandied about, but it's not pragmatically acknowledged and understood in many cases. Because we understand, well, in the past I was hurting, now I'm better. What the fuck happened in between? Do we really have a sense of the process of growing up? And if we do, can we reproduce that sense in our current experience? To do that, we need to embrace true selfishness, capital T. I believe truth and love are sides of the same coin. If you only have truth without love, it is facts. You have facts, and sometimes facts can hurt you. The truth never hurts you. Facts hurt you. If you have love without truth, then you have wishful thinking. You may have coddling. You may have denial. Then the love diminishes. It cannot be sustained. They are not, the words basically represent dynamics that are a single thing, but our minds have separated it into two different things, sometimes interacting. Love truth is basically a single thing. And it is very, very, and one of the challenges is to embrace it as that single thing, because if you try to express love truth, you will end up encountering your own pain. So knowing that when you do encounter your own pain and it's not thrown at you, even when you're blindsided by it, on some level, love truth is working. But if you are also in denial, if denial energy is predominant for whatever reason, and denial energy isn't just you refusing something as an individual, it can also be anything that involves hatred. Hatred is the rejection of love. When you hate somebody, sometimes you hate them because they've rejected you. We hate people the most that have done us the most betrayal. Betrayal is the rejection of love as well. That's the sense of it. That's how it's interpreted, regardless of the conditions around it or what the justifications are. But when you embrace the fluidity, the dance, you realize my dance is one that goes from wellness to confronting illness. And this illness may not be in the body or my mind individually, it may be in the collective. Or it may be in the space between me and other people, that connection. So my relationships may have problems. I may be fine. But if I'm fine, like some people, for example, say, I'm loving, I'm fine, but I get into some kinds of relationships and I get hurt by the other person. And I'm saying, no, what's going on is you're confronting the trauma between you and other people. The web itself that connects us to other people can be hurt and cut and afflicted, so to speak. Just like inside a person as an individual can be hurt and cut and afflicted. Just like the whole collective can be hurt and cut and afflicted as a whole. A systemic state of disease, for example, as we are experiencing. So it's different to heal my individual self. It's different to heal physically, mentally, psychically, whatever. It's different to expand that into my relations with others, because then it's not about them, really. It's about the web that connects. And it's different to expand it And it's not personal per se. It's personal as far as the relationship is concerned, but you can't put blame when it's the space in between that has the affliction. So anything that touches the space is going to generate pain on both ends, regardless of people's ability to do whatever. So the dance between from illness to wellness reaches a stage, and just because you had pain in the past doesn't mean you're not going to cycle again back into a form of illness. It's a spiral. It's going to happen, because how can things heal otherwise? How can we enter a reality frame when we're witnessing changes on the outside when we don't address these fundamentals? It's not inner work. It's inner meso work, relationship work, and it's exo work as well, the whole collective thing. Esoteric work, per se, is just a kind of internalized perspective of experiencing both yourself, both relationships, and the outside, everything, in parts and all together. There's no need for anybody to push themselves in this. So it's a spiral between illness and wellness, and to do that, one must start where the affliction hurts the most. And usually it takes a life circumstance to reveal that. And sometimes it takes it to be repeated because we really want to forget about it and start a new beginning, or let's leave that behind, as if it's going to stay there. No, it's going to pop up right in front of us again, because we're going around the spiral. We're going to turn around and be right above the spot we were that hurt us. And we're going to be right above there. So it's going to have that pain connection. And we're going to turn around and approach it and say, okay, I'm above it now because I have more experience. I have more resources here than I did before. And thus the pain may actually be worse if I don't use those resources. It's going to be less if I do use them. But more or less, I can take it because I've taken it before. And my increased experience is going to mitigate the fact that I've already been hurt. So it's not going to break me. If it didn't break me the first time, there's a shitload of mitigating factors that will not let it break me the second time. This includes, the exception is when we deny the possibility of things getting better. Not other people making things better, but for us to actually say, okay, look, I got nothing to lose anymore. You know, I can actually say that if I have lost everything, I am now at a point where I'm starting from scratch, and I'm willing to be open to opportunity. I want to believe in opportunity. I can feel all that's inside of me. I want to open up. Many times, prayer in the direst moments has saved people. There are many, many instances of that. You have another bunch of people that weren't saved, but I can guarantee you most of these people were in despair, even if they were in the middle of a church praying when some enemy burnt the church down. And to get to that point, a whole series of disappointments ensued. It doesn't happen in a vacuum, and that's beside the point. It's a choice. We are where we are, and we make the choices from there. You have nothing to lose when you try to believe in yourself, and it's not betrayal, whatever happens. The fact is, giving up is going to manifest. Any kind of giving up. Frustration is good if it's accepted, and the energy can eventually be transformed into inspiration and a way through. But if it just sits there and festers, it's going to lead to giving up. A lot of people are stubborn about that, and they want somebody else to come and get them out of their position. But that attitude is probably what got them into the position in the first place. They will say, this person betrayed me, that job screwed me, this got me. If that attitude had changed previously, maybe it would have been different. Maybe the pain is too much. But we increase the possibility when we acknowledge that we are going in a circle of illness-wellness. And it's a fluid circle, and it represents the life force. A life force tending to not be satisfied unless everything is taken care of. It's not going to leave stones unturned, because we can't live unless we're living fully. And we can't live fully unless we're moving toward living fully, regardless of the seeming consequences. On the other side of the spectrum, balancing this, is the element of fire. The goddess Pele, the magma. A magma emerges, rises from the earth, and Hawaii is one of the few spots, if not the only spot I know of the earth, where volcanoes do not erupt violently. They may spread the land full of lava and spurt out all of that, but they don't send out hot ash clouds that destroy everything. Pyroclastic flows, and they say, if you find yourself inside one of these, you're toast. 5,000 degrees more, I don't know how much it is. But The hot spot in Hawaii doesn't generate, it generates fluid lava. It's a fiery, intense, passionate energy that crystallizes into earth to provide a basis for life to grow. That is how awakening works. Awakening is not in a vacuum. Oh, I've realized the big platitude and now I can go tell my friends and spread the word and somehow miraculously it's going to change things. Awakening is meaningless unless it crystallizes in a grounded foundation. That means application. However, we tend to restrict our interpretations of what application means. Sometimes I get the impression that a lot of the politically oriented people, let's do the outer work. Well, the only kind of outer work that seems to be presented is joining a political, social-political movement. That's one thing. It's one option. But there may be other options. And if that is the only option of outer work, then people are going to be turned off because they sense that there might be something else they could be doing. So the emphasis on this organization and that organization doing something, the emphasis that everybody has to change for anything to change is unrealistic. And that's easy to understand because we run into contradictions every time we try to embrace it. How are all these zombies going to wake up? Unless some dictator pounds them over the head, and even then that's not waking up. Even if you inject them with some kind of wake-up drug, what matters is going to still be asleep, and forcefully so. So we are undergoing a process here, and understanding the circle of wellness, illness on the one hand, and then the aspect of taking the initiative of waking up to everything in ourselves, in our relationships, even if it hurts us. It's not going to hurt us as much when our conscious being is involved because we have far more resources when the passion that's within us awakens, because when that happens, the natural event that flows afterwards as we digest the situation is that our fire will solidify like the magma. The heat will not dissipate and freeze. It will still be energy. The heat from volcanoes rises up and creates warm currents in the air. It is charged atmosphere. It goes, there's sometimes with volcanic blast, you see thunderbolts. All of that charge goes somewhere. It cycles. It cycles around. You know that the 7.8 hertz of the planet that they say is the Schumann resonance,
right,
that our brains are tuned into it with alpha waves? Well, it's caused by lightning. The thunderbolts in the atmosphere have energies that travel at the speed of light, and the speed of light travels around the Earth 7.8 times a second. That is the Schumann resonance. So all of these energies coming from the Earth, as well as the energies coming from the sky, create bursts of force that pulse through the atmosphere, and the symphony of all of these pulses affects our brains as a relaxing, awakening frequency. It is not, and many people try, the alpha, this and that. It is not a violent kill, this and that. It is the alpha wave in our brains that is the soft and calm and creative and inspirational resonance. That's how lightning translates from one level of reality, the meteorological one, into another level of reality, the neurological one. So let us, so in that sense, appearances don't need to be deceived. And thus the volcanic flow that might hurt us because our flesh can't stand the heat, on its own level may be a sensual, sexual type of awakening, moving fluidly and eventually crystallizing into the most fertile soil on the planet, a soil that actually has some of the highest concentrations of monoatomic iridium. And thus, monoatomic gold, that is actually said to be toxic. Monoatomic this and that. Monatomic iridium is actually one of the natural monatomic phases that does the same thing as monatomic gold, but it's bonded naturally to anything that grows on volcanic soil, like aloe or yams and stuff like that. So, especially the volcanic soil in Hawaii. So this wealth comes out of that fire of awakening. And that fire of awakening comes from the depths. It comes from places we do not want to go. It comes from places where we experience pain. And the reason we experience pain is because we haven't been there consciously. You leave something all alone, it's going to fester. If blood doesn't circulate, it's going to rot. If oxygen doesn't flow through a room, mold is going to come in and build up toxic emanations, et cetera, et cetera. This is a different form of circulation. The wellness is balancing the awareness in this case, because the more life force flows, the more you can awaken and have the resources to turn illness into wellness at all levels. That leads to greater awakening, that leads to the mobilization of your initiative. And that initiative then crystallizes into application that is fertile soil. You notice there's a lot of shit happening here. I'm talking about a lot of stuff going on. It's not, well, snap your fingers and make it happen. We say, yeah, I know, I get it, it's a process. Well, yes, it's good to get intellectually, but experiencing it is where patience comes from. It's not patience waiting for some asshole who's late for a date. This is the patience of the scenic route. It's the patience of foreplay. It's the patience of gazing at a sunrise. You know, well, when's this fucking sunrise going to be over? God damn it, I got to get to work. Or let's quit the foreplay and get to the thing, you know. And, oh, you men aren't patient, or this is, oh, see, if you're enjoying it, you don't need to be patient in that manner. You're naturally patient. You're like, wow, you know, this is really cool. So, I mean, and so the main act is going to be even better, or, you know, this is great, I'm blessed. And that's how awakening, you know, even as you confront illness, it doesn't make it necessarily, well, I'm still feeling pain. Yeah, but you're in a different place when you're feeling it. You have different resources. Your digestive juices are moving now. You're able to break it down. You're coming from a position where you're not just the victim anymore. You are someone who is able to digest victimization. And as you do so, you are able to approach perpetration. Unless we digest and transform enough of the victim in ourselves and relationships and the collective, and this is happening because as we do so in ourselves, the doorways open to relationships. And as we do so in ourselves and whatever we experience out there, we notice collective effects through our intuition and maybe beyond the box, maybe difficult to explain, but they're there and we can feel them. So how do these guys come together then? You have the awakening, the initiative, the defined, you know, stuff to do that crystallizes into effects, and you have this flow where you have to be merciful and kind to yourself and understand that wellness and illness can alternate because it's part of the healing process. Take it out of the mind, move it into the heart and the body. How do these guys reconcile? And most people will say, well, you have to be responsible. You have to balance and do it or organize. No, the central card was pleasure. Pleasure is what allows us to face anything. And if you accept pleasure, you don't have to chase it. You don't have to say, well, I have to feel pleasure all the time. You have to feel pleasure when you truly want to feel pleasure, because when you know that you could feel more pleasure, if you just deal with what needs to be digested, then you will do so much more willingly than if you think you're doing a burden or a duty or bearing a cross or doing something that you wish you didn't have to do. Hell, man, if my lover was somewhere and she needed helping, I would be happy to go and help her. I may be saying, shit, I wish this didn't happen, but what if she was suffering somewhere? Well, she just went to paradise and found that there's a problem there and you need to go help the situation. And that problem has to do with growing up in a whole bunch of things. Oh, why can't it just happen here and now and poof? Well, then it wouldn't be that. You know, we wouldn't be creating it. We wouldn't be extracting what we want out of the infinite field of possibilities that has now happened to get us stuck in what we don't want. How can we claim, because if you fix the situation on the outside, at best you're going to have an Atlantis, and it's not going to last 2 generations. It's happened before. In fact, there's been so much past presidents that there's no patience anymore in the good sense, you know. It can't last. Repression won't work anymore. I mean, if you take somebody out of the dungeon, they're not going to fucking go back in. So when all of these things rise now from the underworld, they're not going to go back in for the underworld for even a second, let alone a few generations. And that's understandable. They're out here to stay. And it would make no difference. 2 generations, 10 generations. I mean, when people are saying, no, leave me alone, they're not going to find ways. And then there's disappointment because they don't want to find ways that way. They don't want to look at it only through duty and responsibility and what they have to do. They need to focus on their own resources. When you embrace pleasure, true pleasure, you realize that it goes beyond the confines of certain restrictive stimulations. True pleasure is expansive and includes all of that. And sometimes it excludes other things in order to be able to stand on what we know is pleasure. But addiction is bad, not because, it just keeps going. Addiction is bad because it keeps us from other things. It keeps us locked in something that creates a barrier between us and other possibilities that would be even more helpful. And thus we tend to break down in adapting to that addiction. And the more we adapt to that addiction, the less resources we have to go beyond it, the less existential energy we have to expand. So pleasure is much misunderstood, especially in the New Age community. The word selfishness is much misunderstood, but at the same time, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy because people say, oh, pleasure, once I had a revelation and, under the influence of certain substances with some people in the shamanic journey, and they said, well, there is no God. And everybody turned satanic. I mean, everybody got a look on their face. Oh, yeah, that means that now we're free to just go crazy. And it's like, well, you misunderstand. There is no authority that wants to come in and impose itself on anyone to keep them from doing anything, because that is not what it wants for itself. Thus, there is authorship. There is creator as authorship, but there is no authority using the authorship as an excuse to repress and restrict. Restriction comes from growth, and there needs to be an evolution reaches the point where this kind of thing needs to be cultivated where the earth and sky meet. And it's a very difficult place to do so because it comes out of a distillation of infinite possibility. Because many possibilities that have not existed before are now precipitated. But a process that can greatly help us is one where we, especially people who are already prone to responsibility, duty, ideals, and all of these things. Not the ones who are running away. I mean, there's no one-size-fits-all thing. This reading was basically focusing on people who are pushing themselves too hard, who are basically carrying burdens, and don't need to carry them, even if, and often the burdens externalize into something really nasty. And so before they externalize, and even if they have done so, stepping back and being good to yourself, recognizing that it can be a cycle, you can dig yourself out of the deepest pit within reason. Even giving up is not a bad thing to do, in and of itself. You give up, the rest of us will carry on, will come back, and it will be a better world. And it's not because the Savior is coming from the outside. It's because the world itself has decided, and we are inclusive in it, and we have decided. Even those giving up have decided, but they have their place. It's just that a stupid psychopath is not going to tell me how to make that choice, and a psychopath should not tell you how to do it. The TV telling us that we're too many people, that we've hurt the planet and the planet hates us, that we're peasants, that we're cockroaches, that we're this and that and the other. That's something that we need to revise, I believe, many of us, even if we feel we haven't bought into it. It has sunken deep. The religions have pressed it on us. The schools have pressed it on us. Our parents have pressed it on us. And it's something we need to reclaim from them so we can make the choices. How many minutes? I guess I've gone pretty much...
29 minutes.
29 minutes. Okay, well, cool. That's cool, because basically that's the gist of my message. I hope it satisfies the listeners. Okay,
so three goddesses is what I'm going to call this one. And I got the Pele and Hathor, but what was the name of the water goddess?
Celtic Sulis. Sulis.
Sulis. Okay. Okay. Well, I will create the notes from that, but I wanted to get the 3 goddesses, and so that'll be the title. It might be a little bit more elaborated than that, but it's about 3 goddesses.
That's cool. I think that'll draw people's attention to this.
Well, we're definitely moving into more goddess energy on this planet, which is very necessary.
Well, there is one interesting last thing. I'm encouraging this. Well, there's this. I won't say what I'm encouraging this woman and stuff. That's her personal thing. But that the demonizing of certain things doesn't need to happen between the genders, because women are learning to relate to men, and men are the ones who are learning the power of the goddess. We are promoting homo archetypal dynamics, goddesses with women, gods with men, but what is the real challenge right now is that the real power is that the male body expresses through the environment through goddess energy. Basically, the environment is your divine lover. So if you're a male, it helps in your DNA dynamic of interaction to relate to the environment as feminine, as a goddess coming to you. Same way with women, it helps to relate to the environment and your experience as masculine. And thus your creatrix is within you, and your creator is your experience, and the opposite with men. That is a position, I believe, that is of empowerment, but it's very challenging. And it's been very, very empowering to me. I mean, I love to see the world as a goddess. It's great, it's sensual, it's pleasurable, and everything changes. And I'm sure that many women would love to see the world as the ideal male dynamic coming to them blameless, instead of all of these, why can't men be like this and why can't. I've gotten rid of my why can't women be like this and like that, partly, if not mostly, due to the experience of the presence of goddess environmental interaction within and without. That's what I want.
All right. Well, thank you. And it's lots of things came up, but we'll save that for another video or whatever. So I appreciate it, Aristo, and you have a great week. And namaste.
Namaste. We'll talk about, after the recording, we'll get to it.
Oh, okay.
I just want to ask you something.
All right. I will stop the recording and we can talk more. Thank you.